So I think we're just coming up to the time now for the Dhamma stream. So I'll begin in the normal way, offering homage to the Triple Gem, the Buddha, and we'll begin with the opening chanting, and then we'll have some meditation, and if someone would like to request the Dhamma talk, I'll proceed from there. Yoso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho swakado yena bhagavata dhammo supatipanno ayasam bhagavato savaka sangho Dhamayam Bhagavandam Sadhammam Sasangham Imehi Sagare Yadarahang Aru Videhi Abepuchayam Satunno Bande Kagava Sujira Parini Putopi Vajima Janandanungam Bhavanasam Ime Sangare Durgandapanang Arabonde Patigan Hatu Ham Hang Ham Di Harandang Nidaya Sukhaya Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavandam Abhivade Swakado Bhagavanda Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavando Savaka Sangho Sangham Namah Allamayam Buddhasa Bhagavatu Bhupapakanamakaram Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa So let's spend some time just collecting. Say very familiar, beautifully familiar, beautifully simple theme to get through the complexities of our minds and the circumstances, diverse, variable, curious, and so forth, to just clearing, here, just here now, and putting aside this gentle action, just putting aside circumstances. And how do you do that? Well, you find an anchoring point, which use the body, for example, which is the body sitting here. It gives you a sense of here. Okay, that sense of here. So if I'm listening to the fact that there is a body here, that sense here, and around that, there's the various movements of inclination, concern, reverberations, memory, plans, and so forth. Just, okay, that's that. And there's this here. And here is not exactly the body, but it's the mind's attention to the body. So we're not, incarcerating ourselves in a bag of flesh, but just using this connection between the body and the mind as there's something that gives me a place where I can have a perspective on this whirling cascade of mental phenomena. There's this. And what it does is just says here, and you're feeling it, lingering in it, taking a long time to dwell in it. And you can feel the rhythm of the body, the breathing of it. All these have a steadying, calming effect. And we avoid having any particular attitude towards the variable mental phenomena other than that's there. You could call it good or bad or crazy or wonderful, it doesn't matter. Forget that. It's just there, and there's here. And a sense of greater space. And that greater space by itself, the increased space or detachment, you could say, by itself, that has the tendency to certain phenomena will just kind of fade out because there's no particular, there's no motivation, there's no interest in them. It's just like sparks. Quite a lot of just sparks flying through the air. And you let that process occur. Clearing. Just wind blowing through the sky, clearing, not involved with it. And attuned to the sense of spaciousness, the fact that it has no opinion, it doesn't like or dislike, doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything. And by dwelling upon it, a variety of phenomena fade out. And we might come to something, like something that's a little more like stuck. Something, is anything here stopping me from feeling free or open or comfortable? And you don't have to have a word for it, just sense of something like a weight or a tangle or an agitation. And leave it just as that, a certain stirring in the citta where it's not completely relaxed yet, not completely released. This primary perception, felt sense. Feeling pretty good, but something's not quite. And that feels tight, or it feels hot, or it feels agitated. And can I give that some space? And refer to that experience with a compassionate eye or with a compassionate ear, a sense of what is helpful, can I listen more deeply to that stirring or that stuck quality? Does it have anything to say or do? It's being open to that. It may not have words, but it may have a certain emotional pressure to it. Even certain bodily pressure to it. You may feel constricted or slightly tense in your diaphragm or something of that nature. The point being that we don't really have to understand this, analyze it, or explain it. But the nature of the knowingness of citta, the knowing aspect, the awareness aspect, when that turns towards stuck places, clung to places, spreads over them, it allows them to start to move and release. So this is just a thumbnail sketch. Much of the time our minds get so preoccupied with surface data that we don't have the chance to go deeper into perhaps more residual areas of dukkha. And those are the ones we want to learn to relate to with awareness, with openness, and with compassion.
Brahmachalokadipati sahampati Kathanjali adivanamaya Santida Sata Parajaka Jatika Desi Dudhamam Anukantimam Bhajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So, how distant is distance? Are you in Singapore? Are you in America? Are you in Massachusetts? Are you in South Africa? Are you in Germany? Are you sitting in a place in Britain, in West Sussex? Or are you in London? Where are you? What's distance? Yeah. Where am I? For you, a voice, an image on a screen, perceptions arising. Yeah. How distant are you from someone sitting next to you on the train, on the airplane? Perhaps 10 centimeters away, but could be in a completely different area of awareness, couldn't you? Illusion of distance. You know, you can be pressed up against somebody completely unaware of who they are, what's happening. You can be 5,000 miles away from them and have a clear resonance and understanding and closeness. What an illusion distance is. An illusion created by sense consciousness. Yeah. In Citta, there's no such distance. The space is the degree of openness and dispassion present. So with Citta, you can always get space. If there's dispassion, clarity, attention, space will be there. Space means the absence of pressure, the absence of being pushed around, the absence of being oppressed. Very helpful medium, missing medium. People can have plenty of space physically and yet be completely crowded in their minds, obsessed with the future, the past, what they should be, could be, and so forth. Desperate. So much hinges then on Citta. In the present. And the Buddha placed great emphasis on this feature of experience being the bedrock of experience. Just to remind you again, the significance of this is from the Sutta Nipata 55:21. Someone's coming to the end of their life. Mahanama, concerned about coming to the end of his life. The Buddha says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Your death will not be a bad one. When a person's citta has been fortified over a long time by faith, by virtue, by learning and generosity, right here, even though crows, vultures, dogs, and so forth eat your body consisting of form, the mind, the citta, which has been fortified over a long time by faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom, that goes upwards, goes to distinction. Right? Just make what you can of that, okay? Right? Here's another one. Therefore, this is Samyutta Nikaya 20-100. One should reflect upon one's own citta. Thus, for a long time, this citta has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Lust, passion, doesn't just mean sexual, it means all passions for anything, you know, plastic animals, postage stamps, whatever. It is a certain obsessive, compulsive greed. Through defilements of the mind, the citta, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. For a long time. Yeah. So it means not just one lifetime, if you see what I mean. If he's saying once, when the body ends, the citta goes upwards, if it's been fortified by purity, learning, faith, and so forth. Similarly, if it's been defiled, it doesn't go upwards. Now you can make what you like of that. I'm just reading you, and what he says, the Buddha says, that this is not just something about making the present day life comfortable. It's about something far more important and more important than that. In fact, more manageable with that. We can't always make life comfortable, but we can make citta comfortable. You know, our bodies may not be eaten by crows, but they certainly will die, probably in a not very pleasant way. Yeah? And with all kinds of unfinished business, but the citta, fortified by faith, learning, generosity, and so forth, goes upwards. If death will not be a bad one. We see death as a door we go through. A very powerful and transitional period of time when the circumstances are stripped away, you're left with the bedrock of what you have fortified, developed, nourished, sustained for a long time, not just a moment, but long-term aspirations. You know, this is citta. So important to, the process of purification. So the citta is not bowed down and sunk in passion, aversion, delusion. And what is this? Sometimes when the Buddha refers to citta, it's almost as if it's some kind of thing. It goes upwards. Well, I mean, it's a metaphor, surely, but it is defiled. It's something that's worn down. It's stained. An example of the, this is the Samyutta 46:55. The Buddha's talking about the hindrances. And he says, well, when your mind, when you dwell with a citta obsessed by ill will, it's rather like you're looking into a bowl of water that's heated by fire. It's bubbling and seething. So you can't really see your own face in it because it's so turbulent. If it's saturated with craving, sense craving, it's like water that's mixed up with all kinds of dye. You can't really see clearly. If it's overwhelmed with dullness, lethargy, apathy, indolence, boredom, that sense of the apathy, then it's like a mind that's water that's covered with algae, slime. You can't see your own face in it. And if it's restless and worried and agitated, never settled, always maybe this, and I don't know if I did that right, guilty and nervy and anxious and restless and hurried, it's like a water that's constantly swirling, stirred by waves and rivulets. You can't see a reflection in it. And if it's doubt, skepsis, is uncertainty, should I be this? Is it this? Well, I don't know, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Mine never settles. It's like, this is like water that's unsettled, muddy, placed in the dark. You can't see your own face in it. So there's a few things there. This chosen, language. The Buddha's using terms from the Upanishadic tradition. Remember, this doesn't come out of a book. It comes from living tradition, a spiritual tradition, the Upanishads, the understanding. This is where this word Citta comes from. It means, you could say, primary intelligence, the spark of what makes a human being really a human being, something that can be angelic, purified, and also released. This is the context in which this word is used. And the understanding, however, whatever you want to put it, this is going to go on through another lifetime. And he's saying, well, this is not about consciousness. At least, unfortunately, Citta sometimes is translated as consciousness, so the terms get confused. But in one sutta, he very roundly rebukes a monk who says that as far as he understands it, his consciousness goes on from life to life. And the Buddha says, "You foolish man, I've never taught that. Don't you understand that consciousness arises dependent upon a condition?" So it's always something. And what is the condition? The condition is Citta is somehow locked or impassioned or attached. And that's the condition that acts as a stable basis for the arising of consciousness. And consciousness, in this sense, vijnana, means there's a subject, a seer, and a seen. It's two. Seeing, the act of seeing, which is consciousness, depends upon an object being seen, right? And a seer, someone who sees it. So we walk along, I am seeing the trees, I am seeing the cars, I am seeing the sky. That's the sense we have. This is consciousness. I am seeing the sea and so forth. But if you really pause, really focus on the act of seeing, the quality of seeing itself, there's nobody there who sees. Do you get that? When you're listening to sound, there's no person listening, there's listening. The idea of being someone who listens is a thought. I'm listening to that, I don't like that very much, that sounds better. I'm looking at that, that reminds me of that. That's a thought. The person is created not by visual consciousness, but by mental consciousness. So these consciousnesses intertwine to create this sense of a solid reality that's split into objects and subjects, through which this apparent subject wanders, looking for somewhere to call a home. This is samsara. The ongoing panoply, the ongoing scenario of life, death, birth, death going on, being this, being that, going here, being there, distance, space, time. And this is called the Avijja Pachaya Sankara, Sankara Pachaya Vijnana. This means dependent upon ignorance, not seeing, then certain activities take over. And these are Citta activities, Citta Sankara, and they stimulate the arising of this separative consciousness. Of me being there, but when you start to review it clearly, where is Ajahn Sucitto now? What Ajahn Sucitto? What are you talking about? I hear a sound. My mind is stimulated or confused. There's no Ajahn Sucitto, there's just the sound and stimulation. And, right? Where is he? What do you mean, where is he? It's in my mind, right? That's direct reality, isn't it? And where are you? Even more important. Now, at any given time, probably where I am is I am thinking about what I could do or should do, wondering if I'm getting it right, feeling a feeling and liking it or disliking it, having a certain interest in doing this or that or the other. I am planning something. I am a little bit irritated by something. I'm nervous about something. I'm excited about something. Right? That's where I am. that's always arising dependent upon some kind of mind state. It doesn't arise independently. The I am is a non-existent entity. It's a dependently arisen experience that depends upon some kind of mind state that the mind is tethered to, activated by. Liberation is the freedom of that, freedom from that. Now, Citta, as I was saying the other week, is certain fundamental properties. One is probably, I know they're all very important, but knowingness. What is knowing? Not thinking, but a sense in which everything happens. Everything is happening. Sound is happening. Sight is happening. Feeling is happening. Moods are happening. Reactions are happening. Everything is a happening. There's no such thing as a thing. Things are really events happening to Citta. And there can be a spaciousness or an awareness of that process as it goes on. Time and time again, as we meditate, as we listen to Dhamma, we're going to keep coming back to these references. Awareness of things arising within awareness. Perceptions and feelings arising within awareness. Be aware of what you're thinking about. So, you can't get the words to go any closer to reality. They can just keep nudging to remind. There's no such thing as a thing. What occurs is experience. Touching, moving, shifting, playing. Everything is dynamic and is a knowing of that. Now the dynamic aspect of it, the knowing is still, it doesn't do anything, just like a mirror. The dynamic aspect of that, we say fundamentally, as I was saying the other week, it's affected. It means it could be emotional, but it's a little bit more than emotional. It means something is stirred. It's interested. It's purposeful. It's relaxed. It's tensed up. It shifts and changes. It's responding to experience. It's affected. It's touched. Stimulated. Yeah, and that which is stimulated is citta. Citta is stimulated, activated. And it is at the center, you could say it's the center of our experience. Everything happens to, where everything else is, it comes together at this particular point where feeling and impressions generate a response. It's the generating of a response right in the center. And citta acts and it creates. So very fundamental property of citta, or conditioned citta, is it creates. What does it create? It creates waves, it creates ripples, it creates reverberations, it creates resistance, it creates passion, it spins around, it creates speculation, it creates a lot. And how does it create this? It creates this through what are called the 5 aggregates. They're conditioned by feeling, perception, activations, consciousness, form. It creates these, it conditions, it brings these into being. So if we say something like form, when you say, well, surely form, that's not created by my mind. Form actually exists, doesn't it? It's separate from my mind. Well, if you didn't bring your mind to it, you wouldn't notice it, would you? Right? So if it's you can't be aware of a form unless you're aware of it. So it certainly only occurs where your awareness notices there's a form. If we look at some very simple thing like this, your own physical form, or you don't see the back of your head. You probably don't notice much of it. You probably don't notice your elbows, the size of your ribs, your lower back, behind your knees, the back of your head. You don't notice the roof of your mouth. You don't notice the cheeks of your face. You don't notice anything where there isn't feeling. Right? So what kind of form is that? We look at someone else, what do you see? Probably their eyes, primarily. Most important feature, the eyes and the face, the expression on the face. The rest of it, shape, rough impression of shape. What kind of form is that? It's very much dependent upon attention and feeling and perception. Oh, that reminds me of her. That's what your name is. Yeah? That's a perception. So these are what condition the arising of form in one's mind. So Citta constructs, it uses constructive mediums to create external phenomena. But if we really attend to it, you'll notice that all the phenomena that you experience, right, are really mind. They're the same nature. We might think, okay, well, my mind is a space through which thoughts flitter. My mind is this kind of open space and thoughts run around inside it. So open space, thoughts run around inside it. Yeah. What's a thought made of? It's an energy, right, that travels around. And occasionally an emotion wells up through it. So if there's an emptiness and these forms arise and dart through it. You might have that idea of what your mind is. Or do you notice when a thought fades, how it just evaporates, or emotion shifts and suffuses, or how happiness wells up and subsides? Actually, these phenomena are energies that are aspects of mind. They're the energetic aspects of mind. So mind, as it's touched, generates the quality of happiness. Happiness bursts, rises up, flutters, moves, shifts, changes, dissolves into something else. Nothing really clearly begins and ends. It wells up, it peaks, it evaporates, it dissolves. It's an energy, has this nature of arising and passing. It arises within mind, it arises within awareness, and it passes within awareness. So what we experience is actually just mind playing tricks. Mind conjuring, mind conjuring, mind conjuring. And it gets fascinated by the objects that it conjures up. It gets alarmed by them. It gets frightened of them. It gets annoyed by them. Yeah. It compares them and contrasts them. Yeah. It's like a magician fascinated by the magic tricks, mesmerized, hypnotized by his own magic tricks. Yeah. And then within that, the main spell that keeps that fascination with mind objects is, this is what I am. These are mine. This is what I am. This one means I'm bad. This one means I'm good. This one, I don't want this one. I want this one. I want more of this one and less of that one. How can I get this? Where did I get this one from? Whose fault is this? What did I do wrong to have this happen? And so on. Everything is identified with. And it's this lingering atmosphere of identification the Buddha said is the vital key in whether one is liberated or not liberated. If this key is turned, fully turned, then there's no fascination with mind objects. Mind objects lose the potency and the power to keep arising because one is not interested in them. They don't mean anything. They pass away. So it's why the Buddha taught the fading of constructions, constructed phenomena, not through disliking them, but just through really seeing them as what they are, not self, but flurries and movements that occur. Now, some of these are extremely convincing, and some of them are very, very habitual. They become engraved. So rather than particular phenomena, we also notice there are particular strong tendencies. Yeah, I'm getting critical again. I'm always criticizing people, and I criticize myself. Here am I trying to get everything exactly right again. I'm always a perfectionist. I can never relax. Here am I feeling oppressed again. It's all my responsibility. I have to do so much. People don't look after me. Here, these particular strong tendencies, habitual tendencies that the mind runs down. And the tendencies are such qualities as ill will. Yeah. And so these are not just temporary phenomena, but tracks that get carved in the citta. You see, the citta then is something that has a certain substance to it. It's not substance in the gross material way, it's substance we call the fine material form or energy. There's a particular energy of anger. There's a particular compulsive agitation about being busy. There's a particular restlessness that occurs when I'm not being stimulated enough. Right? I get fluttery because I want something to do. That's an energy. The fundamental property of citta as a property is an energy, rather like an electric field. And you suddenly push a button and everything lights up. Right? Just like you sent a current into a potential field of energy and it lights up. And we have distinct, a bit habitual buttons. Someone pushes my button and flash, here I go into, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Somebody pushes my button, I get into, it's his fault, it's my fault, I start defending and blaming. Yeah. Somebody pushes my button, something pushes my button, and I feel guilty. Something pushes my button, I feel angry. You know, certain things just light up, and your mind is completely wedded to those compulsive patterns. And these are like tracks that are carved through the citta. And so we're saying these are tracks you must take very seriously, because this is the tracks that will continue when your body breaks up. Right? This is your railway lines. Right? Where are they going? Do you think they're going to end sometime in the future? They only end when you stop them now. They don't end in 10 years' time. They end only through you now stopping them. Otherwise, they just go on and on and on. Yeah? When your body breaks up, they just go on. And so here we are again. For a long time, this mind has been defiled, confused, hoodwinked, deceived by these pathways, these tracks, the compulsive, glittering, glowing, obsessive, passionate power. The mind has been hypnotized by its own fascinations, by its own conjuring trick. And it's time to wake up, snap out of it. And there's a way. Now, this way is clearly through knowing, is very important, but also the whole purpose of meditation and calming and steadying the mind and working with the mind, and what's called Citta Bhavana. So in a way, all meditation is Citta Bhavana, but you have these often these two trends. One is called the Citta trend, One is the Panya trend, Panya wisdom. So wisdom is the faculty of the Citta just seeing clearly, awareness. Citta is the faculty of the Citta being activated and energetic. And you need to work on both of those. Because you can see things, you can witness, and somehow the stuff still keeps running. You can witness your mind going crazy and it doesn't stop going crazy because the track is too deep. You have to, that's why we meditate, to get enough consolidation of energy, the mind now gathered and collected in samadhi, so that actually the citta is freed from these hindrances. Like the sutta saying, you can really see the clear water. You're not getting fascinated with the algae or the bubbling or the whatever phenomena. You see the deep, clear water, and then you see clarity, you see with clarity. But you need to clear those, that scum, the turbulence, the agitation. And this is the practice of calming, of samadhi, clarification. And its primary cultivations, finding a mooring point where one can stabilize to get the space. And the second primary quality is suffusion. Suffusion or pervasion. Now, this is not standard street language, but it comes from really understanding the quality of mind. It's not just an empty space, it's actually an energy, and the energy can, rather like mist or smoke, it can steadily permeate through the field of the mind. Two kinds of suffusions are suffusions of loving kindness and compassion, the Brahmavihara suffusions, whereby you just generate this and you start to gently spread it through everything that comes into your mind. The quality of goodwill, compassion, gladness, equanimity, you suffuse. And suffusion is, as I said, it's like a mist. Travels, so it's like a cloud that travels through all objects, that saturates things, steeps things, so that the bitterness or the passion or the fire or the turbulence is melted. It's melted away. The other aspect of suffusions is to do with samadhi. Quality is called piti sukha. Piti is certain joyful. The mind's energy is bright, risen up. When the mind's energy is bright, phenomena that are dark, oppressive, are just as bringing a candle into a room dispels the darkness. When you bring piti sukha into a room, you don't have to fight the darkness just dissolves. The clutteredness and the oppressiveness of the mind lifts. The energy of the heart rises. Yeah? If we even contemplate Buddha and bring that into our citta, the quality of Buddha, and you bring that into citta, you can permeate the citta with the quality of aspiration, gladness, and appreciation, and Buddha quality. So it has this property of being able to suffuse. And as I said, another metaphor, you might use it like steam saturates an atmosphere. So the atmosphere becomes damp, puts out the fire. Yeah? Just as when it rains and the water and the warmth of the sun brings the moisture up from the ground and it saturates the atmosphere. This is the quality, this is the citta's ability to suffuse. And so this quality is not like surgery. You don't cut out pieces of your mind that you don't like. You transform them by suffusing them with gladness, with the qualities of samadhi, with the qualities of metta, with the qualities of Buddha. All qualities can be carried through this suffusive medium, which is an attribute of the energy of the mind. Just as these little light bulbs up here, and there's some tiny little bead in there through which electricity is pulsing. It's whatever they call it, low voltage, only about 2 watts. And so, but that light now is suffusing the room, right? It doesn't leave the light bulb. The light bulb is still glowing, but just the quality of light radiates, and so the whole room is then illuminated. Right? So this is the nature of mind. It's not dealing with sending one object from here to there. It's about picking up a skillful quality, lingering in it, taking it into the depth of Citta, where Citta's nature is suffusive rather than creative. Or it's a subtle form of creation. It's the spreading of healthy energy. Rather like breath, you know, how breath can suffuse the entire body when you do anapanasati. It's really helpful to know this, because in contemporary culture, your mind is kind of like a box with thoughts running around in it. You just want to get the right thoughts in there. And you get unpleasant thoughts, you want to stop the unpleasant thoughts coming in. Or if you've got unpleasant, distressing thoughts, you want to find something you could drug to put on them, or something to cut them off. You want some basic crude surgery. And often what people don't realize is just how much damage has been done to the medium of Citta through passion, through just excitement, through distraction, through aversion, through doubt and confusion. These are like passion burns through the Citta. It scars it to the places where passion is burned so deep you can't feel joy, comfort. Hatred savages. It's like strips flesh from the bone. The mind that has been savaged by hatred and ill will grows numb. It loses its capacity for generosity and tenderness. And these are not just ideas, these are energies. So in terms of healing, satisfying, comforting, gladdening Citta, so that its true properties come into proper blossoming, we're able to quell, calm, cool, dispel hindrances, realize the clarity. And then one can look into Citta and see one's true face. What you see, what is the true face of your Citta? What is the true face? Find out. But it's certainly not a person. It's not a person. It's not a form. So, cultivating suffusions is to pick up a wholesome theme, gladness, gratitude, take it into the heart. Don't add too many thoughts, just till you feel it as an energy that starts to warm, glow. Linger in it. Lingering in it, it will tend to grow by itself. And then you begin to introduce body, feeling, memory, discomfort into that quality that you've generated until it melts them the way that warmth melts ice without aversion. But the ice begins to just, because the underlying quality that's caused the ice, the fear or the ill will, has been switched off. And this way we purify and clear the citta. Thus purified, thus fortified, in this very life, the citta inclines upwards. It seeks the purity, it seeks the bright. In this very life, if it does that, then certainly in the passing of this body, it will do the same. Therefore, citta should be understood, cultivated, cherished, purified, and made central. So I'll pause here for today. Probably some things for you to think about. Maybe one or 2 points you can consider. Thank you for your attention.
Andamayam Dhamma Kathaya Sadhu Karam Tadamasi Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
So let's just use the space, since we've carved out some space in our day, and hold the space for a few minutes so that you have a chance to just linger on any 2 or 3 points that have been meaningful for you. You might write them down or highlight them in your mind as something to get back to. And if you listen to the recording, you'll get the sutta quotes at a later date. Okay, we'll sign off with the salutation to the Triple Gem. So again, much appreciation to Beta and all our friends in Singapore, and everybody's contributed to making this possible. It wouldn't have been possible without you, for sure. And if conditions support it, then we can meet again at this time next week, or anyone would like to next week. And until then, look after your citta, look after your citta well. Patipanno Bhanga